Hey, it's Kisha here with Defending the Early Years podcast. We'll be focusing on amplifying the voices of early childhood educators, advocates, and all of those who love children.
Hello, and welcome to the final episode of the Defending the Early Years podcast. And it is with mixed emotions that I welcome Nancy Carlson Page, Blakely Bundy, Geralyn Bywater, and Denisha Jones here today to help me close out. Welcome, everybody.
Hi, Kisha.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
I'm so excited to have this conversation. And also a little bit sad to have this conversation, but we're going to focus first on the joy. And I want to talk to you guys about where did this beautiful idea of defending the early years originate? Where did this come from?
Defending the Early Years began as an inspiration of the early childhood educator, Ed Miller. He worked with Joan Allman for many years in Alliance for Childhood. And when the Common Core standards, when we started to see the push down of academics into early childhood, it was kind of capped off by the Common Core standards, which were phenomenally unbelievable. He and I published an op-ed. I don't remember where we published it, but one of the major papers, and sort of tried to explain that there weren't any early childhood educators at all on the group of people who designed the Common Core standards, and that they'd been back mapped from high school, just basically simplifying things, going backwards, but not adjusting the pedagogy or approaches or anything to the cognitive developmental levels of young children. And it was horrifying to us. And then our whole field was getting a bit heated up about standards, but a large majority of early childhood leaders were accepting this kind of pressure and starting to modify what was going on in classrooms and making it more teacher directed and standards driven. And testing, of course, got folded into all this because funding came to programs, often if they were publicly funded, only when they could prove that they were effective through tests. So it was Ed's passionate idea to try to push back with a larger voice of early childhood leaders. And he met with Diane and me, said what he wanted. We immediately agreed, yes, of course, we want to do this. Ed had a lot of experience in early childhood, and he already had in mind our original board of advisors. And we invited everybody to come to our initial meeting to talk about launching Defending the Early Years. Even the title Defending wasn't agreeable to everybody, but we got through that. And we met at Sarah Lawrence. And it was a really inspiring day because it was a group of leaders in the field who really understood what was happening. And it was really inspiring to be together and to launch this organization. And then very soon after that, Ed wasn't able to stay with us. He's now the editor of the Provincetown Independent newspaper. It's one of the only independent newspapers in the country, and it's highly successful and wonderful. But he left the field, and very quickly we invited Geralyn to be with us on the project. And Geralyn also knew Ed. We're a cozy little family. And Geralyn jumped in and joined us. And we, as the executive director, really right on the heels of Ed. So there we were going forward.
Wow. And the original push with the change and shift in early childhood education. When you guys first created Defending the Early Years, was there any pushback? Did you have to deal with a lot of, politics or a lot of people really standing out against you? Or did you feel like a joy from the early childhood education field?
The field got split pretty quickly. And there was a lot of tension. If I went to an NAYC meeting, there was tension, obviously up front of who stood where on what. and a lot of disagreement. So we would all be speaking, but we'd be saying different things. And no, it was a tense time. It was a tense time. But NAEYC was not uh, sufficiently forceful, in my view, at all for standing up for child development theory-driven curriculum and yielding more to the political pressures. They have a difficult time because they're representing the whole country, and they have to take everybody into account. But at the same time, they were the standard bearer for developmentally appropriate education, and they were definitely not advocating for that in the way that we were hoping they would.
And so, Blakely, you jumped right in, huh?
I kind of did. I was asked to join the advisory board in 2013, I think. So that was kind of early on. And I actually had personal experience about what was actually happening with my own grandchildren. My daughter has twin girls who were going into fourth grade and a little boy who was going into kindergarten. And they were moving from Winnetka, Illinois, whose schools are very progressive, to a town on the East Coast because of her husband's job. And we learned that the kindergarten was very academic. When we went to visit, we found tables, no block corner, no housekeeping corner, and a lot of talk about how academic it was. My grandson hated it from the first day. He would come home in tears saying, it's so hard, I can't do it. And by the fifth day, he locked himself in his room and hid under the bed. Absolutely heartbreaking. As it turns out, my daughter took him out of that kindergarten, put him into a developmental preschool. And as the year went on, my son-in-law's travel plans changed and they actually moved back to Winnetka. So problem solved.
Yeah.
But it just illustrated, what was going on in the field and how many children would be caught up and not able to move back to Winnetka, Illinois.
Blakely, I don't know if I ever told you that I was doing a lot of public speaking in different cities and conferences and things at that time. I had parents coming up to me with stories like yours, different. A child waking up with nightmares every night, kids begging not to go to school, a little boy who'd pulled all of his eyelashes out from the stress of being in kindergarten. Story after story. So, yeah.
It was heartbreaking. It made me so passionate about the mission of defending the early years, wanting to jump in, and fortunately I did. And I guess it was 2016, Geralyn asked me to just come on as a co-director for a year, she said, just for a year. And I guess the rest is history, but we were great co-directors, and then eventually I was co-director with Denisha, and then finally stepped down, and now I'm secretary of the board. So it's been a wonderful run, I have to say.
Wow. So Geralyn.
Yes.
So you called Blakely on. Tell us about how you came upon defending the early years and what that looked like for you.
Sure, absolutely. I remember it was late in 2011, and I had heard about defending the early years kind of like through the grapevine, through conversations. And then I was at a conference with Ed Miller. We ended up sitting next to each other in New York City. I think it was maybe the Bank Street Kindergarten Conference or something like that. And he was telling me about defending the early years, and I could ask him questions, and it was really exciting. At that time, I had my own small nonprofit, Empowered by Play, to protect and promote imaginative play. So of course, defending the early years I was like, yes, yes, yes. And so that was before that meeting at Sarah Lawrence, and I just was supportive of defending the early years just from afar in that sense. And it was later in that spring when I got the call from Nancy and Diane, and I was in a position to say yes. I'm like, of course, I want to support this project. It's definitely what where I want to spend my energy. And I also told them at that time in that spring, I said, I want this project to keep moving forward. I will step in as director, and I'm going back to the classroom, in the fall. So I don't know how long I can do this, but as long as I can. And kind of like what Blakely said, like it just kept staying on because it was so important, right? It for all these reasons that we're talking about, it seemed like the most important thing other than raising my own children, right, who are experiencing all the things that we're talking about. And so I was director, and then I was sharing it with Blakely, and then it just kind of evolved from there. I mean, we met Denisha and Kisha, like knowing that it's the work is better when we have a stronger coalition of people from different viewpoints, different experiences. We kind of wanted to expand and so it just kind of evolved. I've stayed in different roles. Right now I'm on the board as treasurer and supporting Denisha in any way possible. But always the mission has been so near and dear to me. And, we will look for ways to keep it going in our own worlds and supporting each other. It's not like the job is done, but it will take on different, manifestations.
And hearing the origin story, it is so interesting to me how many parallels there are. Like, you just said you had an organization called Empowered by Play. I have an organization called Play Empowers. All of the connections happened at conferences. And Nancy, I don't know if you know this, but I saw you in New York at the Wonder conference in New York. And it was my first encounter with you. I didn't know who you were, nothing. And it was early on. It was probably after 2013, I believe. But I sat in that audience and you were telling stories about your grandson, who, by the way, perpetually, he's like 4 in my heart. He's like 4 years old in my heart. And I was just sitting in the front row and I was like, oh my gosh, who is this lady? I just really, 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 really resonated with the storytelling that you were doing. And after that, I went and got all your books and all that. So fast forward, I don't remember what year was it that all of us came together in DC, Denisha?
2013, as Blakely just reminded us.
2013. Yep, definitely.
Wow, that was such a pivotal time for me because I was stepping out of traditional. I mean, I had started my own program maybe in like 2011, and I was like, no more, I can't do it. I was always like a outcast in every program I worked in because I understood that what they were doing just was not developmentally appropriate. I just deeply understood that. So by around 2013, when I met Denisha and you guys, was when I had opened my fully unapologetically play-based program. So the timing was so perfect for me. And I was like coming to that meeting. It was like one of your DEY.
It was the first organizing meeting.
Yes,
it was the very first one.
At the NACI conference. Yep.
And I was like, I had a point of view and things to say. And I will never forget, Denisha, you stood up, Denisha. What'd you say? What'd you say when you stood up?
So first of all, I lived in DC at the time. I was teaching at Howard. I was about to start law school. And I remember going through the program, like, I don't go to NACI because I wasn't a classroom teacher, I was a college professor. And I was like, I can't get anything out of this, right? So I'm going through the program and an organizing meeting, and I stopped. Somebody's having an organizing meeting, and that doesn't sound like NACI. I was like, who are these people? So I went there, and they were talking about something. And at the time, I was involved with Badass Teachers Association. And I think that's what I said. I said, look, there are groups of educators that are mobilizing, they're advocating. We had a successful thing where we had everybody call in the Department of Ed. By the time I called, they said, oh, you're one of those badass teachers again. Okay, got it. Because we had we had thousands of teachers. So we were really active. And I was like, you guys, we can do this in the early childhood space. It's being done in a K through 12 space, let's do this. And I just stood up and made that comment. And I know Susan Oxshorn was there. She took note. Nancy took note. Blakely took note.
Yeah.
And yeah, and you were there too. And I can't believe we were both there. We both
Yeah.
started talking about, we were fired up. We were fired
Yes.
up for sure.
Just
Yeah.
one little caveat, I wasn't there.
Oh, you weren't there. Okay.
Oh,
I
no.
didn't think
come on,
you.
Nancy.
But when they came back, all Geralyn kept saying to me is, "You have got to meet Kisha Reed. You've just got to meet Kisha. She's amazing. She's a firecracker. She's so amazing." And I'm like, "Kisha, I got to find her." It took a while, but as soon as I met Kisha, I'm like, "Oh, I get it." I see what she's saying. And Denisha, we had already met. I don't remember
Yes,
where
we
and
did
how,
meet.
but we already knew each other.
We did meet before that, yes, because there were Save Our Schools.
That's right. But so we
Yes,
had common,
we had
common
yeah,
interests
yes,
and commitments and passions.
yes, yes.
But in my mind, I was always thinking how wonderful that you would be working with us.
Yeah, in 2014 was when I met you again at the the NPE conference in
Right.
In
Chicago, and
Chicago.
that's when you asked me to
Yes.
join the advisory board and then start
Exactly.
blogging and writing. And I remember that
Yeah.
meeting, and I know I was like, oh my God, I got invited to join this amazing early childhood org. I'm so excited. Yeah. So
And
that
I
was
was
1 year
so
after. Yeah.
excited and happy that you were excited about it.
Yes.
Because I didn't know how you'd respond, but you were
Yeah.
so
There were
positive.
so many groups starting then, right? It all started out of Save Our Schools. So Save Our Schools was 2011, that march, the
Yeah,
huge march
that's good.
yeah,
Really
yeah,
good you're saying that because that
yes,
was it was actually just like you're saying, the Save Our Schools
yes,
was the mass movement of
yep,
educators at all levels
yes,
that was reflecting what we were doing in early
yes.
childhood. Yeah.
Yeah, because Badass Teacher started off after that, United Opt Out, Network for Publication, and Defending the Early Years. The four organizations came off the heels of that planning, and I was involved in all four. And it was amazing to see them come together and and I think we've lasted the longest. I mean, Badass Teachers are still around, but they're not as active, right? I think, and United Opt Out is not. But Opt Out's in different states. I think Opt Out Orlando is still going strong, and Opt Out New York is still going strong, right? But the national organization, and now it's us, right? It was just a great time to be in early childhood advocacy. It really was. And just advocacy and education. And what was great was that they all welcomed us as the early childhood experts because they weren't, right? They're talking about this from a K through 12 perspective. And we're like, wait. And then they would reach out and say, hey, can you guys talk about the early childhood part? Because we don't, we want to make sure that that's being covered. And that felt really good too, because they wanted us to have a seat at the table to make sure that our understanding was being represented in what they were doing.
Exactly. And I would add, like, Fair Test, they had been around,
Yes,
but
Fair
Fair Test has
yes.
been another organization
Yes.
that was doing the organizing around standardized testings, high stakes testing, and they needed that early childhood because the high stakes testings were getting into younger and younger classrooms. And so we were able to collaborate with Fair Test too along the way.
So what do you guys think now? What do you think the landscape looks like now? Do you think it's better? Do you think it's the same? Do you think we just have new problems?
I mean, I think education has tons of problems. I don't think the landscape, it's shifted, right? Neoliberal education policies, which were just starting, are kind of entrenched now in both political parties. We always said we never had a home in either party with this stuff because Democrats were very much supporters of a lot of the education policies we were against. And I think that's happened. But I think it's shifted, right? I think the feeling of what's happening, and it's not so much just about education right now, right? There's like a lot of bad things happening in different sectors. So people aren't really thinking about, oh, it's just testing, it's just education, but it's all there and it's still happening and it's going full on and it's taking a new face with this AI stuff that people are battling now. Our friends at Fair Play campaign, formerly Campaign for Commercial Free Childhood, are really looking at AI toys and AI in education, and they're concerned, right? And so they're trying to continue mobilizing people. So it's there, but I think, with the expansion of universal pre-K, kind of like fighting against the curriculum and the policies has kind of shifted because now it's about access, right? We need more and more access to early childhood, but then the quality debate gets lost, right? Because they're so worried about the access.
Yeah, I want to just flag that word entrenched that you used because what I observe is that the things that we were so alarmed by 15 years ago have become normalized, sadly. And there's acceptance. There's wide acceptance in the United States about academic achievement in kindergarten and even getting prepared for kindergarten and preschool. And and at a deeper level, there's an acceptance of looking at young children in terms of what they achieve, what they accomplish, instead of looking at them as whole humans with needs for dancing and singing and building and playing and being in nature and all the things that whole healthy humans need, especially in the early years when the brain is developing so much for the first 5 years. So it's horrifying to me. Children will do what you tell them to do most of the time. And so if you tell them they have to sit in a chair and they have to write these letters, they're going to cry and say they don't want to go, but they're going to do it. Except for the bravest ones who throw a chair against the wall, they're going to do it. And it's so harmful. And I think the more one understands child development, the more harmful we understand this is. And it's like the creeping crud that's destroying civilization, unfortunately. I'm sorry. But
I feel so strongly about that, Nancy. And also equally frustrated with the looks of horror and the judgment that I get when I speak that way. I mean, people, it blows my mind that people are so confused by the idea that children need to play, that they need to move, that they need to sing, they need to have full range of emotions. It is really sad. Like it got to the point where it felt like convincing people to choose developmentally appropriate over the high stakes, high achieving, the word that they love to use is structure based programs. They're fully marketed. They're fully rewarded by the governing bodies. We have these systems that is your programs Excel, level this, level that. And the higher levels only measure, to me, the further away from developmentally appropriate practice you are. So choosing to protest by not being involved with any of that, it's tough. It's tough for programs, but honestly, those safe haven programs for children are needed. So I hope that people don't give up.
Yeah, no, they're absolutely needed, but it is hard to maintain that sense of like steadfastness against all of this stuff, right? Because it's like you're the outlier. Everyone else is falling in line and doing it, but those kids who don't do, like Nancy said, the brave ones who resist, they come back. They need you. Right. Melinda always tells stories about people who run off to public school and early or another center. And then all of a sudden the parent is like, no, my kid needs to come back. They need another year with you before they get into this. Right. And so we need these programs. Yeah.
And I was thinking about like when we worked with Lillian Katz for the Lively Minds paper, which, is one of my favorites. And she talks about that we confuse the academic standards with intellectual capacities, right? Because the children's, intellectual capacity is so vast, right? And so incredible, the things that they think about and wonder about and work on and play to figure out, all of those things. We don't make space for it because of the direct teaching that we think, they need to, be trained on how to say the letters or things like this. When she wrote that paper and she was talking about we're doing to kids younger and younger what we shouldn't even be doing to kids who are older. And now I think about that was kindergarten. And now we have so many 4-year-olds and 3-year-olds in public schools that aren't designed for them. The schedule isn't designed for them. The playground isn't designed for them. The cafeteria, the bathrooms, all of these things aren't even designed for them, let alone the materials.
And the teachers aren't trained for them.
The teachers are not trained for them.
The principals aren't, it's like, it's all of these things like, and so how to stay steadfast is something that is on my mind all the time. And it's not a pretty picture. Yeah. It's not a pretty picture because you know what? The chairs are getting thrown.
Yeah. I feel so revved up now. Like, I'm like, wait a minute. Just what I needed, right? To be fueled in this mission because it is hard. It's hard to continue to feel like you're pushing against parents, you're pushing against the regulators, you're pushing against, I mean, even non-parents. But let me tell you one demographic that always comes through, for me at least, the grandparents. They come to the program and they cry and they tell me, thank you so much. This, they show me that they keep all the pictures that I send. They understand, I think, because they're from a different time before all this craziness came about. And I just feel like we need a time leap. we need a time leap back when we understood humanity.
We also need like current models of what it should be and what it can be. And like Kisha, I think about your classroom all the time, honestly. And I think about like when I'm faced with those moments where like, oh my goodness, this child needs something so much different than what they're getting right now. I'm like, what would Kisha do?
Oh,
what would Kisha do? Because that agency, like you honor their agency. You do, and what they need. And they, given the right environment, they will spend their time in ways that help them grow and learn and do all those things and figure out who they are in this world.
Yep.
So I do think about you, Keisha, and having those models is important. So thank you.
It is. I talk about it all the time. My observation there at your center for 3 days, how I didn't know what time it was. I'm usually itching to get out of early childhood spaces and, because it's just a whole bunch of trying to manage kids in ways that just make my skin crawl. Someone said, it's lunchtime. I said, what time is it? And they're like, it's 1 o'clock. And I was like, I haven't looked at the clock. I got lost in there. It was such a really calming, relaxing space where kids were being kids. Yeah. But nobody was mad about it. Nobody was trying to stop them from being who they were. Right? Kid picked up a bucket, dumped everything outside, and the teacher just stood there. And the kid walked away, and then the teacher quietly just started putting things back like it was no problem. There was no, don't do that. Don't do that, right? Like there's just no trying to control them. And it just felt very peaceful. And it was a really great to see that that's possible. And it shouldn't just be private centers, right? That should be the standard, the norm. And trying to get people to buy into that you can exist in this space with children where you are happy and they are happy. And like that was like, that's really powerful because people think everyone needs to be miserable. Children needs to be miserable. Teachers need to be miserable. Why? Why do you want to be miserable?
It really is that way. It really is that way. And I just got to a point where I started asking why. Like, why do we do this way? Just because that's in my nature. Like I was that kid who would throw the chair. Like I've always been a pushbacker, always. So I didn't change when I started working with children. I think I entered the field as a teacher that looked like what I always was told a teacher was. So growing up, I played teacher, and that just meant I could be in charge of everyone because I do have a little bossy streak. So, that's how I played teacher. Then I became a teacher, and I was like, oh, this is great. I get to be I can be the, what is it? The orchestra
conductor, yeah.
And I can be creative, and I can, control all the things. And then I met children along the way that they were the pushbackers. And I was like, hey, I recognize you. You're trying to teach me something. And so if teachers are honest and open, they will learn from the children. And I think children just need more people to be pusher backers so that this can change. It's not going to change. It's not going to change for any other reason than that teachers, parents work together and push back for the children. I mean, that's the advocacy work that has to happen. I don't think it's going to be a one-sided fight.
One of the things that concerns me is what's happened with teacher education and professional development, because it's been really hijacked by the standards movement, the testing, the whole idea that you measure success by test scores. I'm in Massachusetts. We had a referendum. The whole state voted to take the standardized test, the MCAS, out as a requirement for high school, and we still have our governor and our legislatures pushing to have some measurement. There's there isn't understanding of what learning is, and there isn't a trust that young people are learning unless you can pin down exactly what it is, measure it, score it, and then claim you've done it. And that basic assumption so undermines genuine, real, authentic education. Even though you see it in countries like Finland or Denmark, it's the evidence is there. And yet, what is this fear that we have to see it in terms that we determine, rather than in understanding what does success look like in a 4-year-old and a 3-year-old and in a 15-year-old? And but I worry because I think teachers have become more uninformed and a bit desensitized
Yeah.
because they grew up with all this junk now.
Yes.
Yes. And
Yes.
they haven't gotten to play.
No.
Yeah, that's some of the hardest pushback. Even
Yeah.
amongst the play-based field, there's a lot of towing the line of they get really brainwashed into performative actions, I guess is the best way. And when you kind of push back, or when you question it, or when you ask them to think about it, it is total defensiveness or an argument that, well, I'm in the system and this is what I have to do. And it really cannot be. You have to stand up. If we don't, it will not change, especially with expanded preschool. Because on the one hand, yes, we want it to be accessible. We want parents to, it's sad that parents do have to work because of the world we live in. It is sad that children can't be home with their families because we do know that is the best for them. But that being said, we are pushing for free or affordable and accessible early childhood. But at the same time, like you said, Denisha, if we're not pushing for developmentally appropriate practice, we're pushing for harm. And I can't stomach the idea of being a part of that.
The hard thing is, like, I would prepare teachers every year, and I always do this activity when I start to talk about play, where I ask them it's called play at home, play at school, and play now. So there's spaces in the room, and I want you to describe the play you did at home when you were younger, describe the play you did at school when you were younger, and describe what you do now that you consider play. And it is shifting. When I talk about being outside from sun up to sundown in my community, outdoors, parents knew no idea where we were at, playing with mixed age group kids. None of these kids can relate. They did not have a day like that. I always say I'm from the last generation where we played outside, free from adult gaze, and I can't get over how much that activity changed me in my life. Like, it made me who I am today. It made me stronger. It made me more willing to take risks. Like, it really did. And I talked to them, and they're like, no, we didn't play like that. Most of the play at home was by themselves in their house or in adult sponsored activities. They are losing that. They don't. So when I talk about play, they don't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So we have to first reconnect them with play. They have to play. They have to get into it because they don't know. And we have a whole, and most of them are fine with that because they don't know. And they're okay with their kids not having that experience. And then when I talk about play, and it's evolutionary biology, right? It's a biological, every mammal's play, right? I love that from Peter Gray's book. That was one of my main takeaways. Playing is a biological evolutionary drive that all mammals participate in. And so when we don't give it to our own children, what are we setting them up for, right? Like, and it's hard because our teachers aren't coming with the same thing.
Well, I think that word agency, it's interesting that it's become popular and people use it a lot now, because agency, what does it mean? It means knowing who you are and being able to make choices and implement them in the world. That's play. That's play for young children, and the ability to move around in the world. So we're with knowing who you are and what you want, and it's a deep thing. It's a human thing. There's a drive in humans, I think, for agency. I think it's naturally in humans. It's actually naturally there. So what we're doing is suppressing it by the way that we structure, the way that we, oversee and organize kids' lives. And part of that thing, Denisha, you're saying of like young students saying they never had a day outside without supervision, that's lack of agency.
Yes,
I mean,
yes,
there's somebody
yes.
monitoring, and I see it all the time and with a lot of young people, but
Hmm.
that sort of fight, that real conviction and confidence and passion is suppressed early on, the way that
Yeah.
we're educating kids.
Okay, that's it. I'd like to call for Defending the Early Years School. You're here.
I love it. We
A
need
new
the
movement
funder.
starts
Yes.
today.
Yes.
All right,
So you
funders,
asked
you're out there.
you asked what's next. I mean,
I know.
we are wrapping things up because we had a great run with when I came on board as ED with amazing what I call an angel funder. You know, started out at 3. We asked for 3 years of funding. We got 4. I mean, that's just amazing. Like we got a ton of money, and it allowed us to do good work. But here's the thing, and this work is going to continue. It needs to. But I don't think it'll continue as a charity because we just can't survive in that space. It's really difficult because most of the money comes with strings attached. You know, you can't just get money to do good work from because you don't have enough people who just believe in the work and just give you the money. But it's got to continue. There's too many of us. We're still fired up. Just now talking about it, we're all fired up. We're still doing the work, and we're going to continue to put forth our message and do it in different ways, right? So the work will continue for sure.
And we
But
are
yes,
going to have our website, and all of our
yes,
materials are going to
yes.
be still available. And I, was just kind of thinking,
Oh, Blakely, you got muted.
You went mute, Blakely.
There she goes.
I am, all right,
Okay.
sorry.
She's getting fired up. She's like,
I'm muted.
go ahead, try
Uh,
again.
I was just saying, we're going to keep our website up and going. So all of our materials are going to be available. And just thinking about all the wonderful things that we have produced over the years. I'm thinking of the videos. I'm thinking of the wonderful video that Diane and Nancy did about the miraculous everyday nature of the miraculous nature of everyday play, which is a fabulous video. Our Teachers Speak Out series, all the reports that we've done, the Audrey Duck videos with Susan Lynn that talked about the coronavirus and how children and then children going back to school. Just wonderful things that I think will live on forever and be helpful forever.
I just
So,
want to piggyback on those reports because we put those out in the first few years of our existence, and I think they're fantastic. There's quite a few reports. We actually produced them over a period of maybe 6 or 7 years,
yeah,
but I think they're timeless
No, they are.
because
They are.
especially the first couple reports, Lillian Katz's, it's really a precursor to Dale Farron's work
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
because it's about deeper learning versus surface learning
Yes.
and trying to understand it's one thing. You see that right now with the science of reading movement. You see children having the ability to actually name letters and sounds and even read without understanding what they're reading, without meaning. So this distinction is kind of pervasive, but you can look smart, but you don't think, or you don't think critically, and you don't really deeply understand or have original ideas. You're just parroting back what someone told you you're supposed to know. So, Lillian's article, Lively Minds, is pretty much about this with me going off on it. But the report's good. And I've been told by teachers that they've used that in various situations, college classrooms, in their professional development. So I want to recommend it. And the other one was Connie Kamey's report on math, because she
yeah,
is a brilliant math educator. And I used her work in my teaching graduate students. And she took apart the Common Core standards and explained why they were inappropriate, the ones for math, in her paper. And even though Common Core isn't as widespread now, the concepts in there are really important to understand because she's explaining how young kids come to make sense of number and math. And if we understand that, it has huge implications for the classroom and how we teach math. which is largely through play, if we understand that we're teaching math that way.
Yeah, I
So
think
just they're worth reading and using.
yeah,
Yeah.
the original reports are great, and Keisha's been resharing them, and people are falling in love with them all over again.
Yeah.
I realized that I had not read, like, because I shared it a couple months ago, I had not read that clearly. I guess I felt like I read it for the first time again when I read Lily Katz's one, the art, the intellectual, and I was like, wow, we've been saying this
Yeah.
for so long, and this was
Right.
out giving us what we needed. But I also just want to point out a more recent one because I talked about this on my live series the other day. The one by Diane Levin and Judith Van Horn about the study they did with early childhood teachers and children being subjected to reforms, right? Low-income children and the reform. I cite that one all the time. And it was like, I think almost our second to last study that we published. And so it's more, it's a little contemporary, but I don't think he got enough. People didn't read it enough. They interviewed probably like maybe 15 or so early child teachers long term. They had been teaching in the field for like 30 years, and they were talking about how these reforms that were for their kids, low income, they were harming them. They were awful, and they weren't able to give them the kind of early childhood education they needed because of what they were being told to do by the state.
Yeah,
And it was
definitely,
really, yeah,
definitely affecting Black and brown and low income families and children on a higher level, higher rate.
yes.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times they are the ones who are in the free programs, and the free programs are governed by these strict mandates and ways of teaching. And it just
Parents who can opt out of that do. They put their kids in Montessori, in Waldorf, in any type of private play programs. I have a friend in Kim, Kim in California, and she runs a play school program. But she's like, these are Silicon Valley's this is one of the most expensive places to live in California. So these parents are choosing that and they're paying for it because they know it's what their kids need, but poor parents don't have an option. Their option is,
I don't know any parents
suspended.
I don't know any parents who have substantial income who send their kids to public pre-K.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
And when I visited public pre-K in Florida, it was a huge program. There were 10 classrooms. The kids were 4 and 5. And I was fighting tears in there.
Yeah.
I've never seen anything so terrible. And most of the kids were almost all in that community Latinx.
Yeah.
And I saw a little boy at the table just crying. The teacher wrote words on the board, and they were supposed to be sitting there, 4 and 5-year-old, copying the words because she was testing a kid over in the corner. And if anybody said anything, she yelled at them. There wasn't a thing to hold, touch, or play with in that whole room.
Yeah.
And that's what they were all like. And I talked to most of those early childhood teachers when I got a minute. And I said to everyone, did you have a course in early childhood? And everyone said no.
No. They're elementary trained teachers without a single course in child development.
So,
I was at one college forever. I was trying to get the like you mentioned it, Geralyn, admin need this training. So we had a leadership program. I said, look, if you can't give me a whole class, can you give me a couple Saturdays? Like, they need training in child development. They're out in these schools imposing horrible policies on young children because they don't know any better. And you guys aren't giving it to them. And they could not give me any time in their 2-year admin leadership program just to talk about child development with people who were going to be in charge of pre-K kids. They would not concede that. And it's super sad.
Oh. Wow. Well, you guys, we can talk forever.
We can.
yeah.
But it's time we say goodbye. So I want to give each person a chance to say their parting words. I'm going to start with you, Nancy.
Well, it's been a thrill and a deep satisfaction. I'm going to cry. Oh dear. To have been, a founder of DAY and the president of the board. We joke about the president because, of course, we don't like presidents. But we need one. Nonprofits need a president, so I'm it. But it's been deeply gratifying. When I actually looked at our website yesterday and just reviewed all the things we've accomplished, and it's mind-blowing what we've done. I mean, so valuable. So I'm really glad that's going to be accessible to people. I wish we lived in a world where people understood that the most important thing to fund in a society is young children. And that's absolutely categorically true, and I'm passionate about that thought. because I think we'd have a completely different society, culture, and world if we provided the kind of education that I know the all of you and many, many of the people who have become our followers and participants also understand. But it's hard to, in a society like this, it's hard to get um, people to understand the value of young children and also the authentic meaning of who they are. It's a hard fight, but it's one to keep working at. So hopefully we all will in our own ways, and that everybody who interacts with us will carry this torch on in whatever way he or she can.
Thank you. And Geralyn?
Yeah, it's just piggyback on Nancy and to like the work isn't done, and so to find ways to stay connected because the early childhood field, as we know, is really fractured and it's hard to be organized. That's been one of our challenges over these years, and that challenge doesn't go away. But I trust we will continue to find ways because it's too important to not do that. And I think, Diane Levin didn't join us today, but she always would like sign her emails onward, and I'm thinking like
Yes.
onwards, like onwards and upwards, like here we go, we're going to find new ways, and I trust that we will stay connected as people and as organizers and advocates for young children.
Awesome. And Blakely?
It's been a wonderful experience for me working with you all, my colleagues. We are deeply connected, I think, in our passion and our desire to do what's right. And I'm so proud of what we have accomplished. And I too look through the website and the newsletters and even our minutes. And I agree, it's just amazing what we have accomplished with a very small group of people and a very small budget as well. And I will always be very, very proud of being a part of it. And I'll miss everybody in our monthly meetings. But I hope that we will still be in touch. And I agree. Onward. We need to keep going in some way or other and have others pick up the mantle that maybe we planted some seeds.
Mm-hmm.
And Denisha, I just want to, before I let you say goodbye, I personally want to thank you for bringing DEY over the bridge and continuing it, taking the torch and running with it. You really brought it into the hearts and homes of a lot of people who I've worked with and known over the years. So thank you so much for making DEY accessible and continuing the work. And what do you want to say?
Well,
Ms.
thank you, but I
Denisha?
have to say it was everyone in this room plus Diane who really let me do it. Like I still can't get over the fact that they let me just do whatever I want. I remember I was sitting there, I'm like, can I do this? And I'm like, I think you can. I think if you just tell them, they're gonna say, okay. And it was
Sounds
like,
good.
I was sometimes I would think, oh, they're not feeling it. They'd ask me all these questions, and I'm like, oh no, they're not like it. And then they're like, okay, sounds good. But they would like ask me questions, and it actually helped me think through my idea more. But they were always supportive. It was never, no, this isn't going to work, Denisha. They were like, okay, if you say so, go ahead. And I was like, oh, and I did it. And so having that freedom, that agency to really that trust, right? That they gave me, it was just amazing. And I remember when the first time I was asked to like maybe step into a full-time role by our funder, and I was like, this was early on. This was like before the pandemic, and I was like, what am I going to do with this organization? I don't know what to do. And then when asked again, I said, okay, I'll do it. Now I'm like, man, I wish I just did it the first time you because I didn't think it was possible, and I didn't really know that I needed this break to be where I am today. Like I was steady in academia and I loved it, but I could see my losing my identity as who I was, be trying to follow along, and stepping off that track and stepping into this position really allowed me to maintain who I was, and I'm so grateful for that opportunity. And I'm not giving up, y'all. I might not be a registered 501c3 anymore, but I am still bringing the revolution mission. We are going to save childhood. We have to. And it's all I want to do until my last breath. So we're going to keep it going one way or another.
Amen.
But this place was the start for me, and I will forever be grateful that I just had a place to land and do this work and work with you, Kisha, and everybody. And it's been amazing.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone. And as Diane would say, onward.
Onward.
Thank you, Kisha. And thanks
Kisha.
everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
And that was another episode of the Defending the Early Years podcast. Defending the Early Years works to support the rights and needs of young children nationally. Learn more at DEY.org. Pay us a visit, sign up for our newsletter, or connect with us on social media. Thank you for listening. Bye-bye.